And Chris, the floor is yours.
I better unmute myself. So hopefully you can see that presentation.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry, Chris. Perhaps we'll just open the meeting and then we'll start into you.
Sorry.
We'll just do the apologies first and then Chris will start. If you just up the top, it should say unshare screen. Awesome. Chris Paps, the floor is yours, and then it will be Chris Hunt.
Oh, it's all right. Thank you. I can do it myself. Okay, welcome everybody to these trying times of Zoom meetings. Goodness gracious me. I know it's pouring down outside. We've got electrical storms and causing all sorts of havoc with our internet providers. But welcome to Fletcher's, and I'm looking forward to your presentation, and welcome to all our board members. Long time no see. I hope we're all fit and well. Are there any apologies? No apologies.
Just noted that the mayor puts his apologies in, but we don't have to.
Okay, thanks, Samara. Then there's no declarations of interest relating to the items on the agenda? Nope. Okay, well, welcome. What?
Sorry, the food bank have got an application in for funding, and I'm on the food bank committee, so I should declare that now.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn. No other declarations of interest? Okay, we'll proceed. Right, welcome, Chris.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Sorry, Madam Chair, it's Janice here. I can see that Councillor Coots has his hand raised.
Oh, is he? I can't. Councillor Coots.
Look, I raised it when there was apologies, so obviously a little bit earlier. Look, I would like to leave the meeting by 9 o'clock tonight. It's the first time, I think, or that I've probably done it. I've got quite a heavy workload on this week. Councillor Halliday, I can see laughing in the background there. And so I've got a lot on tomorrow for multi-edi grants, applications to consider, and also the council papers for Thursday and so forth. So we may be through by then, but I'm just signalling I've got to make sure, one, look after myself, and two, allow enough time to be able to do the work due diligence. So yeah, if we're still going at 9 and into the midnight, I will be departing you all.
No, we'll try and get it over as quickly as possible, especially with the Zoom meeting, because it's just too difficult to actually carry on too much. So welcome again, everybody. And Chris Hunt, you now have the floor. Thank you very much. Welcome to Fletcher's.
Thank you, Christine. I guess before I start, how quickly do you want me to go through this?
Just that, you know, it doesn't have to be super speed. Just, you know, just,
okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's go through and I'll
questions
stop
at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not sure whether I can. Is that in presentation mode for all of you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So thanks for inviting us along. Kind of unusual doing it through Zoom, but that's the new world, I guess. So I'm obviously here to give you a construction update. We're going to start at the north end of the job and then slowly work our way down through the south end of the job. So that first photo that you can see there, you can see the embankment at the northern tie-in now is complete. We finished all of the sub-base on that and stabilised it. I think quite a lot of that batter has also been topsoiled. So obviously once the planting season starts in a couple of months, we'll be out there planting those batters as well. So we're making good progress up at the north end of the project. You can see there, that's the stabilised sub-base material that's gone down. That's probably got the cement in it, and we're now just trimming that down to level. an aerial shot there of a similar sort of thing, and the junction of the existing State Highway 1 and Taylor's Road. Going down further through the bridge, through the project, sorry, we get to, that's where existing State Highway 1 crosses the new alignment and the realigned rail line. So what you can see there on the left-hand side, if you can see my cursor, on the left-hand side is the northbound on-slip, and on the right-hand side is the off-bound south slip into Ōtaki Township. Both of those slip roads we've asphalted already. We've got the AC20 down, and on the main carriageway, you can see through that alignment, we've got AC20 down, and we've also got some AC14 through that area, although not all of it. Carrying on, I mean, that's just a little bit closer up, you know, showing the southbound off slip and the northbound on slip. We have had a couple of questions recently about the width of the northbound on slip for cyclists. There is a 1.5 metre shoulder there. So, you know, that would be where cyclists, if they wanted to go on the expressway going north, then that's where they would be using the shoulder, the hard shoulder. Looking a bit further down and over Rahui Road Bridge. So quite a bit of work's been done through the bottom right-hand side, bottom right-hand corner. There's a noise wall down there, which is the milk station, behind the milk station. We've obviously got wetland ponds up there that we're doing, and you can also see County Road and the work we'll be doing eventually at the top end of County Road, where it comes into a cul-de-sac. There has been some questions around the corner at the bottom right down by County Road, vegetation growth. Well, we've done quite a bit of work on that over the past month to 6 weeks. So hopefully that's addressed some of the concerns that we've got from the community liaison group and the Northern Neighbourhood group. Carrying on down, Bridge 5 over Ōtaki River Bridge. So these photos were taken probably 6-7 weeks ago. So at the north side of Ōtaki River Bridge, up in the top right-hand corner of the photo next to the Winstones Quarry, we've actually stabilised all of that northbound carriageway now as well. So with us completing that and also completing the northern tie-in, the whole main alignment now has been sub-base stabilised. So it's now ready for our membrane seal and then asphalt, the 2 layers of AC, AC20 and AC14, and then ultimately the Amogpa layer over the top of that. This is just a shot here of the Winstone aggregates, where you can see the grader in the middle of the picture there. That was when we were actually doing the subwaste work on the northbound carriageway. But like I say, that's all complete now, and we've finished the full length of the main alignment for sub-base stabilisation. Moving on down to Bridge 6-7, obviously Otaki Gorge Road, again, all the way through here is now complete. The bit that you can't quite see at the top middle of the photo, I don't know whether my cursor's showing, but there's a rail impact wall. So there are a couple of rail impact walls that we had to build. So that's just in case a train gets derailed and it protects the bridge structure. So both of them are now finished. They've been backfilled and the batters have been completed. You'll see on the west side of State Highway 1, we've done quite a bit of work through what was the old diversion. And we've now reinstated a lot of that area for the landowner. and we've prepped the road formation for when we've diverted the traffic off State Highway 1 onto the new alignment, and then we can reconfigure that interchange. So we've still got a bit more work to do where the existing State Highway 1 pushes over to the west side a little bit, and then that comes into a T intersection, and Ōtaki Gorge Road then has the right of way into Otaki Township. Just thinking whether there's anything else in that photo I want to bring up. Just the northbound off slip. So obviously we've got the northbound off slip there that connects into Ōtaki Gorge Road, and we will obviously finish that before we divert the traffic onto the new expressway, so that they've got access into Otaki Township. That's just looking north, same photograph, but looking north. That pond over there on the west side of the main alignment, that's actually I think it's a temporary pond. So we pull that out once we finished construction. So that's not one of our wetland ponds, that's one of our erosion control ponds. Again, a better view, right down at the bottom of the photograph, sort of just across from the middle, you can see what's the start of a roundabout, a small roundabout. So that's the southbound on-ramp onto the expressway from Otaki Gorge Road. So again, that was probably 6 or 7 weeks ago, that photograph, because we've made quite a bit of progress. If you drive that road, you can see the progress we've made on the roundabout. Carrying on down School Road, just a good view there that shows some of the diverted stormwater channels that we've got through the project. I'm not quite sure whether the next photo goes a bit further back, maybe not, but there's quite a few, you know, in this area, because the ground's obviously level and you've got a lot of water coming down out the hills and going out to the ocean. Moving on, I don't think there's anything really to talk about there. I guess just up at the top right of that corner, that will ultimately be Winiata Link Road. So Winiata Link Road will link up with a number of properties that are on the eastern side of the expressway. So that will come off School Road. Middle on the right hand side is where Winiata access comes off, and that also goes up to the kilns as well, traveling up that way. And that will also be where the shared path goes. You can see Winiata Link Road starting to form at the top right hand corner of the photo on the east side of the expressway. So that's probably a better photograph of that. You can also see down in the sort of bottom right hand corner, you can see the starts of the shared path. You know, and obviously the shared path goes all the way down to Cavallo Farms and then across the rail line and through the underpass. Not too much to say on that one. That's just one of our site accesses at the moment. That's sort of north of Bridge 9, the rail bridge. I guess this one's just showing, I think that's Old Howtree Road. I may have that wrong, but basically showing all the accesses off the road, the local road. I guess one other thing maybe before I show the next photograph, you can see in the middle, so the asphalt's finished through here, and you can see in the middle of the main alignment, we've got the median barriers that we're on with and prepping. On the west side, you can actually see the barrier is already installed on the hard shoulder, and we're obviously working on the east side of the hard shoulder as well. that shows a better photograph. So on the west side, you can see the wire rope barriers installed. The median, you can see some of the posts, well, all the posts up, but the wire rope isn't in on that section. And then on the east side, you can see the hard shoulder getting ready with the barrier installation. And obviously then on the right of that, on the east side, you've got the shared path as it goes north. Bridge 9, so that's the rail bridge. We've asphalted all the way up to that on the south side and commenced asphalting north of that as well. So there's been some really good progress made through there, and I think we'll probably show a bit more barrier construction as we go through some of the photographs. So you can see the end of, I mean, like I say, that was taken maybe 7 weeks ago. That's the end of the asphalt. So the light grey is the membrane seal. So we put a chip seal down first to waterproof the subbase, the stabilised subbase. And then that was the end of the asphalt as it was about 7 weeks ago, but that's now all the way up to the rail bridge itself. Again, heading further south, you've got the access for Cavallo Farms, and then just north of that is the cycle bridge. So the cyclists will come up the west side of the local arterial road, the current State Highway 1. There'll be a signalised crossing on that local arterial road once we've completed the project. They'll go through the culvert, and then they'll actually head south using the same access as the residents at Cavallo Farms. And just in the bottom right hand corner there, you can see the rail crossing. They then go across that and then start heading north, and you can see the digger in the bottom right and a footbridge for the shared path then heading back north. I guess I think I've probably mentioned this before, but you know, our wetlands are designed so that you know, they can accommodate large flood events, but when they do dry out, and you can see pretty clearly there are actually 4 deeper ponds that allow the wetlands to, you know, retain its vegetation and the natural wildlife. Just some more photographs of asphalt. That's what the job's becoming like, just asphalt along large stretches of it. The difference there, sort of in the northbound carriageway, which is the top one of the two, that's the AC20. So down at the bottom we've got AC20, and then up at the top where you can see it's stepped, that's the AC14 layer that's going down. And again, more asphalt going on, coming further down through the job. We did have some comments about the shared path, the southern section that we opened around signage. So we've corrected that. So, you know, motorists do have to give way to pedestrians and cyclists. That's part of the road code. So the residents, so we've removed the give way signs that were on the shared path, because technically cyclists and walkers don't need to give way to vehicles, but I'm pretty sure they would do. Again, more asphalt. Looking right down to the south end of the job. So that's much more tidy now. We've made a lot of progress through the, you know, the asphalt's finished. We've still got a bit more work to do as we connect into Mackay's to Peka Peka at the north end of Mackay's to Peka Peka, south end of our job. And if effectively where that vehicle is in the bottom left-hand corner, We've got a section of pavement through the that we're going to do some repair work to as part of the remedials to Mackay's to Peka Peka. I am just going to go back up a photograph. So all of these sections through here now, if you drive through that, you will see the wire rope barrier going up like there's no tomorrow. So we've got several crews working on site doing wire rope barrier. So we want to get all the wire rope barrier up, and then the last layer of asphalt, the emogpa, we will literally do that about a month, 6 weeks before we open the expressway, because it's like the icing on a cake. We don't want to damage it by having construction traffic driving over it. So the last thing we do is lay the emogpa and then do some white lines. We are trying in this south end of the job, south of Bridge 9, we are trying to get some emogpa down before winter. And that's literally just for us to be able to test the brew that we've got for the emogpa, make sure it's going down correctly, make sure that we've got our methodology right, and make sure we can get our productivity so that we can get the expressway open as quickly as possible. So that's it. I hope I haven't rushed it too much, but I'm open to, I'll stop sharing, or maybe I'll keep sharing just in case any of the questions relate to any photos that I need to go back to. But I'll take questions, Christine.
Well, my only question is what finish date are we looking at now? Is there any date in sight?
We're still sticking with the communication that we've provided. You know, we are looking at having the expressway opening late this year. Obviously, the March in particular, but maybe part of February, has been a little bit challenging with the impacts of COVID. So we, at any one stage at the moment, we've probably got 30 or 40 people that are not at work, self-isolating. Depending on what those roles are, some of that can have an impact on our critical path, which is asphalt. And probably over the past 2 or 3 weeks, our asphalt production's probably been about half of what it was prior to COVID, which has meant that we've not made as much progress in the past 3 weeks as we would have liked to. However, we're still on target to have the expressway opening, you know, late this year.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. You can certainly see the progress when you're driving down the state highway as it is now. So it's looking good. Cam, you have something to say? I'll just mute myself.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. Just a question for you, and because I'm sort of an anti-weed person, and I drive School Road quite a bit. The guys doing the planting have done a wonderful job through there, but there's noticeable that they've literally planted around some weed species. There's a number of trees in there called brush wattle, which are a registered weed. Do they have permission or the authority to get rid of those, or perhaps the knowledge to remove those weed trees?
They'll definitely have the knowledge to remove them, Cam. I probably need to check whether they've got the permission, but I don't see why they wouldn't. And certainly part of the landscaping subcontract that we've got includes maintenance as well, which is you know, killing the weeds. And that doesn't matter whether it's on the main alignment or on some of the local roads. If it's within our construction site and our road designation, then we should be doing that. I'll ask Renata to maybe make a note of that and follow that up with Steve Finley tomorrow, just to make sure that they are aware of that issue.
Would it be helpful for me to maybe email the locations of the plants?
Yeah, that would certainly be helpful. Yeah.
I think I've got the email there somewhere, just the standard one, so I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Cam. Right, Marilyn, you've got your little blue hand up.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. That was really good, and the road's looking great. Excuse me. Just wondered if there's a finished estimate time for the Winiata link?
That's going to be post expressway opening, Marilyn. So, you know, we're probably looking at that. I would be surprised if it's this side of Christmas. I can check our program and let you know exactly when that is. But I think it's more likely to be early 2023 rather than late 2022. Our focus is certainly on getting the expressway open at the moment.
Okay, thanks very much for that.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Oh, James, I see your little blue hands up. Away you go.
Thanks, Chris. Kia ora, Chris Hunt and Glenn, I think, is in the background there as well. Good to see you both virtually. In a previous council briefing, I'd raised a question. It's probably more a question for Glenn, and it was around the toilets on the southern side of the Ōtaki River Bridge. Glenn, if I could just be very frank and put it out there on the table, I appreciate the agency is under increasing pressure financially. Those toilets are looking in quite a state in the time that they've been disused. And I'm just wondering what the plan is to, I know that I've asked you in terms of, is there going to be any replacement of those toilets, but the question this time is just even in terms of tidying up the exterior and interior of them, given that they've sat for so long and been further defaced.
Yeah, thanks, James. Good evening, everyone. Look, we're certainly planning to return them to their existing condition, I guess pre the works. I think in terms of any upgrade, that would be something we'd probably have to have a discussion with KCDC about at this stage, but certainly the plan is for them to be in a functional order when we've completed the project.
Thanks, Glenn. And certainly any upgrade, I'd imagine that was a further discussion. My question was more around just bringing them up to a usable standard. I would say they've sort of considerably deteriorated in the time that they haven't been used. So the question was more about, you know, as they sit today, it's arguable that they'd be usable, but they certainly aren't presentable.
Yeah, agreed, James. I mean, we've got to bring them up to an acceptable standard, similar to the standard they were at when we took over the project. So we will certainly work through that and make sure that all the graffiti is removed and as I said, that they're functioning appropriately.
So I think, James, maybe if I can add to that. I mean, they're still closed to the public at the moment. So obviously that work will be done at an appropriate time where we're reopening that rest area and reopening it to the public. So that it's not going to be within the next, you know, in the foreseeable future, but obviously later this year or early next year, then we would obviously be doing that work and opening them back up to the public.
Thanks, Chris. That certainly wasn't my expectation that it would be done prior to that. It was just more getting an understanding of what was intended, given the level of that they've sort of fallen into over the last couple of years.
I mean, James, we'll certainly endeavour to try and get them open to tie in with the shared path, because I think they're going to be quite a useful facility once we open the shared path. So.
Thanks, Glenn. The second one's just a comment from me. Gentlemen, I've got an action point that I think it's Renata's waiting on for me to respond to via email. So I just apologise. I've been completely snowed under. And I will be coming back to her just to close out that AP on my behalf. So just my apologies to you both in advance.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, James. No need to apologise.
Chris, I think Cam had a further question.
Yeah, I've just seen that. Okay, Cam, you got something else?
Yep, sorry, nothing. It was something that James and I actually had a chat about a while back regarding the maintenance of the plantings on either side of the Kapiti Expressway. There was a question of how long the maintenance period for the planting areas goes for until KCDC takes over those sections.
So
2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, so Cam, from a Fletcher perspective, I'm just trying to think contractually. I think contractually we do maintenance for 5 years from when we hand the project over. So that's our contractual obligation. It's very similar to Mackay's to Peka Peka. So I think it's 2 years for all of the asset, and then an additional 3 years for the landscaping. What then happens beyond that? Obviously, that's part of the discussions between NZTA and Waka Kotahi and KCDC.
Yep. So that's something that yeah, we'll have to look at. Well, sorry, KCDC will have to look at. Cool. Excellent. Thanks, Chris.
Right, does anybody else have any further questions? If not, I'll thank Fletchers very much for their attendance, and they can all go and have their dinner or whatever it is they need to do. So
thank you
there's
very
no more
much.
questions. Thank you. Thanks, Glenn, and thanks, Chris, and any other Fletchers members that are there that I can't see on my screen. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
you.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Yes,
Yeah,
see you.
bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Right.
Glenn.
Onward with the agenda. Right, there'll be no public speaking time, obviously, because I don't think we've got any public have come in, have they?
No, the grant application people were told they didn't have to attend, but were offered, but not had no requests, and also no public speaking requests through any other avenue.
Okay, then. Well, if we work our way through, the next thing is members' business, and then public speaking time responses. So there's none of those. Leave of absence. Does anybody have a leave of absence? No. Any matters of an urgent nature? No. Now, we've got the road naming. Sorry?
Chris, are you happy to move that community board members' activities down to the end so we can try and get through the reports before the next staff arrive? Cool.
Yeah, I'll move that down to the end of the.
Can we do that every time? Could that be
I know.
a standard part of the
Can we do it as a standard? We can't.
There's issues around the info council because every community board set out the same, but I won't ask you. We'll just, that's how we roll.
Yeah. We just sort of seem to follow it through.
Yeah.
Just seems to be more practical to have it at the end.
Yeah.
For some reason. Okay, now has everybody had a look at the names, the road naming? Everybody had a good squiz at those, and anybody got any really firm? We'll do them one at a time, I think might be the best way, rather than trying to deal with them all in one bulk. So the first one is, I'll find it, is number, this is trouble with the agendas here. Not on that side, not on that side. Okay, first one is, I think it's number 14. So there's three names. Te Puke Te Aro Way, prominent in Ngāti Raukawa history. Option 2, King Way, 4 generations of family connection of developer. Option 3, Highfield Way, named close to the developer's father. So does anybody want to have any discussion on that or put forward a preference?
Can I just ask, there's 2 roads we're naming, eh? Is there 2 or is there 1? I was a bit confused. There's 2 lots of names.
So there's 2 reports. So there's the 6.1 report that you've given 3 options, and then the 6.2 report where you're given 3 options to name a road.
So there's 2 different roads off Te Manuao Road.
There's 2 different addresses listed at the top of the reports.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So 2 different subdivisions on the same road.
Yeah.
I'm happy with the first suggestion of that's been put forward. The iwi are happy with it. Developers are happy with it.
I'm happy to second.
Yeah.
If Cam's moving, option 1.
Yep. I'll move that. We pick option 1 for 6.1.
Chris,
you're
muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I have to say that all again now. I said, Is everybody happy with that option 1, or does anybody have a strong opinion on one of the other 2, or any discussion on it? No? Okay, so Cam's proposed it. James has seconded. There's been
we're all
discussion.
happy.
All those in favour, put your little Tory thing up. Where is it? Yeah, your thumbs up, that's it. Okay. Great, thank you. Okie dokie, on to the next one, the next road. So the next one is, there's 3 options for this one as well. One is Ropata Te Aroa Way, prominent in Ngāti Raukawa history again. Campbell Close, Janice Campbell owned the lot for many years. Moore Way, Alison Moore was the teacher at Waitahu School for 40 years plus. Her husband was also principal at Te Horo School for 25 years plus as well. So that there's, I think, probably not a child from not this generation that's going through now, but the older generations that wouldn't know the Moores. But anybody have any strong feeling on any of those names?
I don't know Janice or Alison, so I won't comment on how famous they are in Ōtaki.
James has his hand up, Chris.
James.
Look, I went to put my hand up before in the last paper, and I'll say the same for this one. The quality of the reports that are coming through for the road naming make it a lot easier to make the decisions. There's obviously the research that's been done in the background. There's full involvement and feedback from Ngā Hapu o Ōtaki. There's the rationale given behind it. I'm in favour of supporting option 1, although I acknowledge that the other 2 referred to in the options are probably well-known people within the community. The thing for me, whether it's them or whether it's anyone else now and into the future, you've always got to, I think, look back further in terms of the history and how far back that goes. And for me, the further it goes back, the stronger the connection, the stronger the prominence, and I guess the stronger the right of that road naming. So, some of this history goes back many decades. I think for me has more of a stronger right to the road naming than some more recent. So no disrespect to those others that I mentioned. One of them certainly I know, not personally, but know myself. But for that reason, I'd support option 1.
Yeah, well,
I'm happy to second that.
I'm happy to second that as well. So,
you can do it, Chris.
oh, thank you. I'll get my name in a minute somehow. Okay, does anybody have any discussion on that or any other strong views on either of the other 2 names? As I say, I didn't have a strong view on it. I just commented about Ali because I know her, I know her connection with the community. But you're right in the regard, James, that really in another decade, no one will know who she is, basically. So that's where the stronger historical names are probably more relevant.
Just to be really clear, and look, not disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing, but in another decade they may still be well known. And I guess that's the test, is if it's in a lot more years' time and then name comes forward for something else, then in my opinion that would carry weight given the length of time that legacy has been there for. I'm just saying in this instance that the whānau that have been there, it well precedes the other names that have been proposed there. So I certainly not suggesting that anyone current cannot have a legacy within the future.
No, yeah. Okay, well, you've moved it, I've seconded it. Is all those in favour, do your little thumbs up thingy, me what's it? That's it there. This is very strange. Because all these councils are used to this because they're doing it more often than we are. Okay, that's that one done. So I've got my papers all lined up here. Right now, has everybody gone through the grants? Maybe the grants applications next, because we've done that. The road.
Chris, could I just make a couple of comments?
Yeah, sure.
So just, and I think I said it by email, just to let you know, the grant that came in from Zero Waste Ōtaki, they are a couple of months out of their 12-month stand down period. I did confirm with the chair around this. They have been offered quite a hefty discount on something that they'd like to purchase, which only lasts probably for the next month, which is something they need, I think, was the statutory requirement. So the chair agreed to put this in into the grant application report. Also, I'd just like to note that the Ōtaki Food Bank have put in a grant for a computer and printer, and I did specify, I think on the grant application, the amount they've requested is a little bit higher. I did let them know that it's $500 normally maximum grant, but up to the board's discretion and how you do that going forward as well. So just a couple of comments around those grants.
Shelley.
And Shelley's got a hand up.
Yeah, Shelley. Right on. Wait, you're muted.
There we go. We don't have, how many meetings have we got left and how much money have we got left? Because for me, something like the food bank, maybe we could support them for the amount that they need, because they're not for profit. But we don't.
Shelley, we've got this meeting tonight. We've got the 10th of May meeting and the 21st of June. So we've got, after this meeting, 2 more meetings prior to the end of the financial year. And the amount currently that we have left is around, I think, just over 20,000, I think. Yeah.
To me, that's, you know, and it's the same with zero waste. I know they've got other funding, but you know, it's been such a successful thing for the community, and also to prove that you can put waste to good use, that if we could support them in more of a, you know, for the amount that they really need, I would be happy with that, because we're not going to get 20 grand's worth of applications. You know, kids are not going away on sporting stuff in the next few months, most likely. So that's just my input.
Can we discuss these as we come to each grant? So we'll sort of cover them one at a time rather than trying to talk about them all together in one lump. So we'll work through the grants, and as we get to each one, we'll have our little discussion on it. Okay? Right, so the first one I've got is Camel RSA, and that's for their RSA function, which won't be the usual, from talking to them the other week at the RSA, the usual one at the Cenotaph because of COVID regulations. So they're doing something at the RSA club rooms. So, I mean, and I certainly don't have a problem with helping fund them. And as you say, we've got quite a bit of money at the moment. So, and I know that, you know, the food's definitely not cheap at the moment. So they would, you know, being helped out in regards to supplying the food for the veterans and everything that are there. They're having an invite list, so they'll probably be able to budget it reasonably well in that regard, that they have invited guests only this time. And I think they're limiting it to 100. So would somebody like, well, should we just move them one at a time as we're going? Because there's only 3, I think, isn't there? 3 or 4. So if we can move
Maybe just move it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Someone to second it, please. Yeah, I will.
Sorry, can I just confirm who first did it and who seconded it?
Shelley moved it and Cam seconded it.
Cam, and that was for $500?
Yeah.
Awesome,
now,
thank you.
Is there any discussion on that? Would anybody like to have any further discussion on the?
Are they likely to move it outside if the traffic light stuff changes?
They could do, but it won't change actually having. They always do a breakfast for the veterans, so they won't actually change that even if they move it outside.
And do we
they just might end up with a few more people there that they haven't catered for.
Yeah, no, I have no issue with that. I just wanted to check whether they could hold it outside because it was quite a nice thing to attend.
But I think what they'll probably do is once they've made the decision, even if the COVID rules change, I don't think they'll change it because logistically it'll just be too much to try and organise. So, okay. So no more discussion. Marilyn, are you happy with that? Yeah. Okay, terrific. Okay, that's that one done.
We're looking straight at your ceiling light, Marilyn.
Kath, this is the food bank one for their computer and hard drive.
That's you, much better.
So
There's somebody else's ceiling light I can see. I don't think it's mine.
I don't think it's mine. Oh, I've got one. Might be mine.
No,
Okay,
no,
so the
that's
food
right.
bank now, Janice, is it within our powers to, or within our, that we can actually give the food bank the full amount?
The grant conditions enable the board to use their discretion to
Yeah.
vary the criteria. So absolutely, I'd say so.
I would just clarify with that zero waste grant, just to, sorry, to talk about, they've only stipulated that $500 in the grant, but if you were to, if they did have something else to apply for before the end of the year, that would help. I think they've secured the additional funding to purchase that thing from a private person, but yes, so it is up to the board's discretion with that food bank one as well. You can,
Oh,
Okay,
What do
well,
people think? Full amount or
I'll move
grand?
that we give them the full amount. If we give them a grand, it's only another $170. So
yeah,
we
fair enough.
might as well give them the full amount. If everybody's happy with that, I'm happy to move that. And is there a seconder for it? Thanks, Shelley. And is there any discussion on any, can you see any reason why we shouldn't do it, James, or?
No,
Okay, so I like that.
I mean, it's a 12-year-old computer they're replacing, so
I
hell,
know,
they
I know.
need a new one.
And the thing is, I mean, they're all volunteers, so, and they've got no way of fundraising really, so.
And it's actually a second-hand computer they're buying as well.
Yeah.
Marilyn, I will just note that you didn't take part in the voting under that one for your declaration.
Thank you.
All those in favour, other than Marilyn? Oh dear, I've just done something I haven't. I'll keep hitting the wrong button. All those in favour? Thank you.
Big thumbs up.
Yeah, big thumbs up. Okie dokie. Next one.
Can I just say thank you for that, because they've been really struggling down there, and that this will be really, really helpful. Thank you.
Now the next one is the zero waste, and I've spoken to both Adrian and Max Lutz on this. They both actually approached me. And the thing is that it's scales to weigh their timber in and out, and it's actually a council regulation that they have to weigh the timber. It has to be weighed both in and out. Now, they could have got hold of some older scales, but they're taking on somebody else's problem. So Max Lutz has been able to get funding for the rest of it if the board can actually fund the $500. So they have got funding for the rest if we're happy, but as Samara said, they're sort of just inside their 12 months, but I mean, they're doing such a great job, and I really think, and we've got the extra money, and I really think they're doing a great thing for Ōtaki. So I certainly do not have a problem, and I don't have a problem with if they come back perhaps for the last meeting if we've got surplus, if they really need something else. So
Chris, James has got his hand up.
Yeah, James. Who is?
Yeah,
James.
I don't have a problem supporting the application. I think that they do just amazing work there. I'm actually quite surprised that it's a requirement of them to weigh that though, given that prior to them being in existence and having to kind of not so much fight, but work very hard to get supported by council, all that waste or rubbish went into the landfill or into the transfer station and off to the landfill. So look, if that's what they want to do, I'm happy to support that, happy to support the application, but I'm rather intrigued and inquisitive around whether the council are actually stipulating they're required to weigh it, because it does seem quite over the top to me. Good for them to have that data and to be able to demonstrate, especially to other funding agencies they apply for, the impact that they're making. So again, I think it's a great idea, but yeah, just really surprised if that is actually at the request of council. I'm not sure of other places that have been required to do such a thing.
Well, that's just what I was told by both of them, so I don't have any argument one way or the other. Okay, would someone like to move that grant application?
I will.
And I'll second that.
Who was that?
Marilyn.
Marilyn and Cam.
Cam, yep.
Right, there's no further discussion on it?
Nope.
No, okay, carried. Right, now the last one, I think so, the last one, is Max has put in one. He actually approached me again on this one. Apparently the Ōtaki pool has taken over quite a few of the swimming lessons that were falling out because of our Hurutai pool being closed. So the college pool's been staying open longer and been doing lessons and having kids there swimming for longer times. They want to keep it open a little bit longer, but the chemicals and everything are quite expensive. So I think what they need the money for is for the chemicals for the pool. That's what he said to me anyway.
Chris
Yeah.
James has got his hand up.
Yeah. So James.
So I'm just coming back through the application again, but in case I've missed it, is this just for this year in terms of them keeping the pool open longer, or is this an ongoing thing that they're looking at doing each year?
As far as I'm aware from what I was told, it's just this year because they're keeping the pool open longer.
Because of the Hurutai pool being shut in.
Yeah.
I guess the reason why I'd asked was because if it was ongoing, then where would their source of funding be ongoing? That was more my concern. But if it is just in response to the closures at the council pool, then I'm happy to support it this once.
Yeah, well, to the best of my knowledge, that was what I was told. So I can't sort of argue anything I was told. I'm assuming that's the truth. So
that's what I understand from in conjunction with the applicant. Yeah,
because he rang you as well, didn't he? Max gave you a call, because I asked him to. Okay, well, I'm happy to move the $500 for the college pool, and Shelley's seconding it. Hold on, Cam, you would wish to say something?
Sorry, just in their letter there, they're talking about $2,500 to cover chemicals and the caretaker to look after it. So, but it doesn't say where they'll get that extra $2,000. So again, in that same vein of thinking, do we want to increase our amount? I'm a very pro water person and water safety person, so.
Well, I'm open to upping it if someone wants to move that we double it or give them another couple of $100 or.
We just have to be very careful if we pay for that $2,500 that it's not wages.
No,
I wouldn't do $2,500. I was just promise we don't have a breakdown of what's chemicals and what is what is the caretaker's fees. So I was tempted to agree with Chris with like doubling it, but we want to have some sort of split to know how much is wages and how much is not.
Oh, here we go. Here in the letter from the email from Andy Fraser, he said it will cost $2,500, which will cover the chemicals and the extra fee for the caretaker.
Yes, and that's so we don't know the breakdown for how much the chemicals are.
But I should imagine it wouldn't be $1,500 for the caretaker. Well, who knows?
Can we go back
He might be a
and
really good
find out?
caretaker.
It's very expensive to keep a pool open. Really expensive.
Yeah, agreed. So could we potentially put it as $1,000 with as long as chemicals are that is used for all chemicals?
It's only used for chemicals and not to pay the caretaker.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd second that.
Okay. So who moved it?
Cam.
Cam moved it. Marilyn seconded it. Any further discussion? James, do you have any problems with that one?
Look, I'm not so in favour of it. I guess we're at risk of just handing out the money. I think we've got a lot. We've got a couple of meetings going. We don't know what's in store over the next few months. A lot of funding goes to Ōtaki College, and they do some fantastic work. But I guess the point that I'm making is it's not like they don't get their fair share of the funding each year from the community board. They get it through the college. They get it through other groups that go. There are college students, like the sports groups. We made allowances there for those additional applications to be considered. So I'm just mindful from a board perspective how much funding actually goes to Ōtaki College year on year. Look, from a principal perspective, it's not. It's a great course. I'm just mindful that we do still have another couple of meetings left, and there are other needs out there in the community. So,
Shelley. Shelley, you got your hand up?
She's muted.
Shelley, you're muted.
I think she's frozen too.
She's frozen too. Oh, now we've got 2 Martins as well. Okay, well, I'm sort of, as I say, we don't want to look like, because we've got this extra money, we don't want to look like we're sort of having a lolly scramble and throwing it around. The food bank one, they don't get any other funding, basically. I don't think they get, and they are run by volunteers. I'm a bit inclined to agree with James that the college does get quite a bit. The only thing with this one with the pool is an extenuating circumstance, and providing it's only this one-off, I don't have a problem with it. I certainly wouldn't want it to be a continuation or them to come back and say, well, you did this last year, can you do it again?
Marilyn has got a
This
hand
year.
up, Chris.
So, Marilyn.
Yeah, I think that in these extenuating times with COVID and the whole, everybody having to pull their heads in over the last 2 years, really, it's affected kids, it's affected so many people, and if we can do something to help to keep the kids in the pool, give them some exercise and all that sort of stuff, I agree with Cam. I would be in favour of it.
Okay, any other discussion?
We're certainly not covering the full 2.5.
Kudos to Councillor Halliday. He's just read the application and stated that the application, Max has said in the application that the alumni will be paying the difference.
So there we go.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I missed that. Excellent.
Yeah.
So can someone confirm the amount that you're going to pay to the
Well, we'll
Otaki?
just lift the $500 in. Everyone in agreement?
Let's just stick with that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll move we give them the $500. So are you still happy to second it, Marilyn?
Yeah.
Well, you moved it first time, didn't you, Cam?
I had Chris moving it and Shelley seconding it.
Okay. So, right, is that it? Oh, hold on, there's another one.
Oh, no, one more.
One more. I missed this one. I didn't actually read this one. Indoor bowling club. Hall hire. Okay. So up to the $500. So they do affiliation fees, hall hire. So they've certainly filled in their little bit okay. So has anybody got any comments or any discussion to have on the Ōtaki Indoor Bowling Club?
Cam has his hand up.
Cam.
So in reading where the income is coming from, it's a bit sad that they're dipping into their savings for their shirts. So the hall hire is $680. So again, in the same veins, do we pay $680? Well, sorry, give them $680
for their hall hire.
Yeah,
because it's definitely going to the hall hire.
Yeah, that's only $180 more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then we keep breaching our $500 limit
over
and over.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And if we do it once, we'll be expected to do it next financial year for people, and we might be in a totally different situation. So where's hoping we are? Here's hoping we're back to normal.
James has got his hand up.
James.
I'm happy to support it, but I think we just need to leave it at the amount that they've requested. I did see the savings there and quite a large amount in savings. Unfortunately, unless I've missed it, what they haven't clarified is the cost of the replacement mats and obviously the shirts. From a pure funding perspective, and Janice might correct me here if I'm wrong, but if they were applying for funding to an external organisation, they would generally want to see what the plan is for those savings. So, it's good to have savings, but equally if you're requesting funding from other people with significant savings, that funder would want to know what those savings were set aside for. And it's commented on in the application, but it's not clear whether half of that will be used for mats and shirts, and in which case another $4,500 will remain. I'm not saying that is the case, but from a ratepayer perspective, you wouldn't want to be providing funding to an organisation if they had sufficient funds in reserve to actually fund it themselves. So I'm happy to support it, but I certainly wouldn't encourage funding over and above.
We could be setting a dangerous precedent.
Well, that too.
Yeah, and that does happen with community trusts and the like. If you've got too much money in the bank, they'll say, no, you can spend the money you've got in the bank.
So, Shelley's got her hand up, Chris.
Shelley.
I just think the food bank is kind of special because it is completely not for profit and supporting people in Ōtaki that, you know, are not actually paying for the service and can't afford, if they're going to a food bank, they usually can't afford to put money forward. So
I don't think we're a food bank, well, are we? We're talking about the bowling?
No, but I mean, you know, we can't be, it's not going to put us in the position that we're, oh, you're just giving out more money. Whereas if we do it for everyone, that's going to what people are going to look at and say. But, you know, the food bank is kind of unique to me.
Yeah. And especially in these times at the moment.
So you've got the amount $500, Chris, you just need someone to move it and second it.
Yeah. Shelley's moving. Who do you have someone to second it? Thank you, Cam.
I'll second.
Any more discussion on that? No.
Nope.
All those in favour? Right.
Can I just, Chris, say a quick comment? I encourage all board members for the next meeting, the next two meetings, that if they're out and about in the community and they do talking to people, just encourage people to apply that haven't applied or are out of their 12 months, because what I might do is send you a breakdown of what we've got left after this meeting, so you can just sort of start to encourage people who haven't applied before or who need some help to submit. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Samara.
That's right. Now, Chris, just to let you know, we've had Mike, Kelvin and Gareth join the call, and that should, I think that after the reports was the next item on your agenda that they were going to, and I think Mike was going to lead it with an introduction and then go through some of the matters under action.
Okay. So we've got, we're up to that now. So welcome to, who is it? Kelvin?
Kelvin, Mike and Gareth.
I can only see Kelvin. I can't see the rest. Okay, well, welcome staff from council. How's that? It covers all the bases. Okay, well, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So my name is Mike Mendonca. I'm currently acting as the Group Manager for Place and Space at the Council. So in my area, we have pools, libraries, property and parks and open spaces. So this evening, to talk to the matters under action, I've brought along Kelvin Irvine, who's our Property Manager. Give us a wave, Kelvin. And Gareth Aloff, who is our Parks, Open Spaces and Environment Manager. So I just make the point that Kelvin and Gareth have only recently, relatively recently been appointed. We were a bit quiet last year. We had a couple of staff issues, which we've now sorted. We're now just rebuilding our team now. So we're back with a bit of a vengeance and some energy, and I'm really keen to crack into some stuff. So with your leave, Madam Chair, I'll just go through a couple of things, many of which are on your matters under action register and some which aren't, but I'll just take a couple of minutes to race through those, and then I'm happy to open up for any questions, if that's okay. Thank you. So first of all, just on the Whinstone Lakes. So Gareth, who you just met, is actually on the working group for the Ōtaki Lakes. We're engaged with the regional council and with Whinstones on that. And we also have a person called Janice Hill. Janice is working with cycleways, walkways and bridleways, and is heavily involved in that piece of work as well. A couple of complex property issues that you are familiar with, I think, but we are working through those, taking a little bit of time. The Civic Theatre, just a reminder that has some strengthening work, but not planned until 29-30, and that is the time when we're looking at putting in an accessible toilet at the same time. There's a fair bit of work going on with older persons' homes in Ōtaki at the moment. That's going to plan, and Kelvin can answer really detailed questions about that in a moment. Really happy with the way that's panning out. We haven't run out of materials yet, but next year might be a different story. The Otaki Boating Club. So we're just working through a couple of issues there with the paperwork around the boat club, but we are advancing that and hope to have that finished off by the end of next month. The pavilion, which got a bit of a hammering with graffiti this year, but Kelvin's had the heritage architect through just in the last few days, and we'll be happy to talk to you about where we're up to with respect to planning around the pavilion. You might be aware that we had to rip up part of the floor of the library, was a bit rotten. We've replaced that. There's still a bit of moisture under there, so a little bit worried about that, but for the immediate future, at least, the floor of the library is in good enough shape. Had some trouble with the public toilet in Tasman Street was damaged by arson, actually. We think that's about 25 grand's worth to fix. The problem there, though, is going to be getting the materials and to actually fix that. It might take a little while yet. And just on, so graffiti and vandalism is on the up for the time being. It kind of comes and goes, it spikes. Graffiti in particular has been pretty bad. It's kind of just tailed off a little bit in the last couple of months, but it has been pretty bad over the last 2 months, actually. Kind of eased off a wee bit when school went back, but it does come and go. And working through the issues at Crystal's Bend with the new public toilet that that the community is planned there. And finally, just a couple of things on COVID. So you might be aware that we did have to close the pool this afternoon due to staff and staff family members with COVID. Hopefully it was just half a day. We had a similar issue at Paraparumu last week, and our libraries have had a couple of half days here and there where we've had to close them due to COVID. But by and large, we're pretty happy with the way we've gone with our services and with COVID. We have split our crews into bubbles. 2 different bubbles, so that when we do have to have an outage, it's only for half a day. So it seems to have served us quite well so far. Now we're at the peak. We're kind of looking forward to that easing off, and we seem to the plan seems to have worked okay so far. Madam Chair, that's what I really wanted to talk to formally, but happy to take any questions on any of those items, or indeed any areas that we're responsible for. Thank you very much.
The only questions I've been getting about the pool is when, it's probably the usual story of how long is a piece of string. When is the pool going to get back to normal hours so the aerobics ladies can get back to their water aerobics, and I can go for my swim at 8:30 in the morning.
So we do, Janice and I and the remaining members of the senior leadership team do sit down every week and review the settings. We did it just this week, and we're always looking at it. We're getting a lot of pressure from people who have seen that Taupō has actually relaxed its settings. We don't believe we're ready to do that just yet. We have a different population from Taupō, and we have different risk profile, and we are still in the peak here. So can I just assure you that we're always reviewing with a view to relaxing, and as soon as we possibly can safely do that, we will be looking to do that. But I always have to say it's probably not imminent, but we're talking probably weeks rather than months. But we're always reviewing that, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll just tell them all to watch this space.
Chris, Shelley's got her hand up.
Shelley.
Hi, Mike. I'm Shelley. I'm part of the Kapiti Equestrian Advocacy Group. I didn't get to the meeting that you had with Ruth, unfortunately. I have got a few with you. Just kind of skipped over the Ōtaki Lake access. So I'm just wondering what the update on that is for vehicles and CWB. I've heard things, but it would be nice to know what is true and what's not.
Oh, okay, I'm happy to provide it. Maybe if I provide a written report as part of the matters under action. We haven't resolved everything. The Regional Council has put in place a governance structure, a governance group and a working group. Gareth is our representative on the working group, but he hasn't actually attended a meeting yet. So we're putting in place the structures that we need so we can make decisions and manage that appropriately. Of course, it's a bit tricky with the Regional Council because it's their flood protection people rather than their parks people. But just working through that, Shelley. But I'm happy to provide a short written brief as part of the matters under register for Samara, if you like.
That would be great. So the Ōtaki Theatre, you've got down that the disabled toilet would be in the 2030 year plan.
29-30, that's right.
29.
The financial year 29-30, yeah.
Yeah.
2029, 2030.
with regard to the players, that was one of their priorities. And they do, I don't know, you've probably talked to them, I'm sure. But they did have a spot in there that they had actually had plans for a disabled toilet that wouldn't alter the building because it's now a heritage building. And I think as a facility, it's a pretty important thing because a disabled person has to leave the building and go to the public toilets next door. Older people cannot get down the steps to those toilets that are in there. So I think, you know, I just think that would be nice to have that a bit more of a priority for our community and all of the people that use it. Actually, it's well used facility.
I'm happy to look at that, Shelley. I can't make you any promises. This is in the long-term plan, so I don't have a magic wand that can bring that forward.
Well,
but
I understand that.
yeah.
As on a small, you know, the minimum you can do before then, because that's quite a long way away, actually. Anyway, Haruatai Park signage. I brought this up at another meeting, and when we put that in as a community board as something that we wanted, my understanding was that we would be part of the kind of design. And now in the minutes, I think it says, or in the part of the document, it says directional signage, whereas I kind of, the other board members might be able to say what they understood, but I understood we were going to have some kind of really cool, funky, unique signage that would, you know, maybe from the main road and maybe in front of Haruatai Park, that would note it as a bit of a place to go, because there was money allocated to it, which now needs to be spent, but it would be really nice if we could be part of that process and
So
maybe run a competition. I don't know, like get the community involved in what they would like to see the signage be. I just don't, I think there's to me, there's the council's thought of what we've asked for, and then there's what I think we've asked for, which is quite different.
So I can tell you, I don't think we've actually looked at that in great detail yet, Shelley.
Okay.
And Gareth will correct me if I'm wrong, but that is certainly something that we're happy to have a closer look at and to come back to the board with. We certainly haven't seen it in concrete yet.
I just think rather than wasting staff time by designing something that we maybe we're not really wanting or expecting, can we be involved from the get-go?
Gareth?
I definitely think that is on the agenda at the moment in terms of our discussions in-house between team, very small team at the moment. Unfortunately, but yeah, we are looking into that. We had some provisional or initial discussions in terms of understanding the directional aspect of it with assets and infrastructure. There are some technicalities we're still trying to get to grips with ourselves in terms of the second we're touching directions, kind of that type of signage, what sort of potential guidelines or rules there are at play. They've raised a few safety concerns with us about that and how we go about doing it. So we're just kind of working through a few technicalities in that first, and I'll be able to tell you more next time.
Okay. And one more, the stride and ride for the PP20. What's the budget? What kind of budget are you looking at? What are we going to get out of that? Has NZTA coughed up any money?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but you'll be aware that this is a live issue with us in the NZTA at the moment. So again, I can't give you any details. I'm sorry, Shelley, but Janice and her team, Janice is regularly in touch with the NZTA on that. Happy to come back with a bit more detail at the next board meeting if you would like.
Yeah, and I do understand you're stretched because you've got no team members, which is understandable, but just wanted to let you know what.
Thank you. You might have seen 3 advertisements went out this week for Gareth's team, so we're hopeful for filling those sooner rather than later.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Right, Marilyn, do you have your hand up?
I did have my hand up before. Thanks, Chris. It was really just to say Yeah, what Shelley was talking about with the Haruatai Park signage, that was my understanding as well. So I was really just wanting to support what she was saying in that, but then there was further explanation went after that, so I'm quite happy with what was said. Thank you.
Right, does anybody else have any further questions?
James has his
James.
hand up.
Oh, sorry, James, I didn't see.
Kia ora, Mike, and Calvin, good to see you both again, and nice to meet you as well, Gareth. I know we haven't sort of formally spoken on that, so kia ora and welcome. With regards to the signage, again, not wanting to labour that point, Mike, but having worked with the community board at the time they formed their submission, I guess to kind of paint the picture of, excuse the pun, but the intent was that you can drive past Haruatai Park without even knowing what sits within that park. The splash pad, the pool, the track, the loop track, and so forth. So rather than being directional signage, it certainly was more sort of promotional signage to kind of market the fact that actually there's a whole lot to do within this park and come and see it. And that's some feedback that we've received directly from people from outside of the area as well come in, not even knowing that some of those assets exist within that park. With regards to the boating club, again, appreciate the discussion that we've had offline, and I guess more just saying this publicly for the board, given my comments at the last meeting. Mike has certainly been in touch with more recently with both the boating club and myself, and things are progressing, albeit slower than probably what I'm hoping for, but that's but at least they're progressing. So appreciate that, Mike. I don't think there's any sort of further information I need from you at this stage, other than your team are, as you say, hopefully bringing a paper to a future meeting around that. I did have one question to raise with regards to an approach that was made to energise Ōtaki. It's not something that I'd normally raise at the community board, but I raised it with Janice today, and given that you and your team were coming to our hui tonight, I thought I would just raise it tonight with you rather than try and catch up with you during business hours. So I've received some correspondence from Energise, who were approached about a council asset that they had, and would be keen to forward on that email to you, Mike, and just have someone get in touch with Energise, because it's been some months now since I've had any correspondence from the council on this, and they're quite keen to progress the discussion. So if you're okay with that, I'll flick you an email with the info from them, and that would be great if someone could follow up.
That's fine, thanks, Councillor. We're familiar with that issue and with EO, so I'm happy with that. There is some work that needs to be done to that building before we can do anything with it, by the way. But yeah, more than happy to make the connection with Lee, I think it is. Yeah,
absolutely. They're more just keen to know, you know, is it off the table? Is there, you know, where to from here, sort of thing. Given that there's been a fair absence of discussion around that. Lastly, the graffiti issue, which again you and I have spoken with offline. Following the discussion that you and I had, just coincidentally, Darcy, sorry, not Darcy, his name skipped my mind, come back to me, but from KYS, who manages the graffiti response in Ōtaki, also noted the increased graffiti. I'm just checking whether you and your team have been in discussion with him or touch base with, I'm trying to think of his, I know it, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Councillor Coates, it's Terry Poko.
What, Terry? Thank you, Terry. Have you guys been in touch with Terry in terms of the work that he does with youth there around removing the graffiti?
I haven't personally. Have you, Kelvin?
No, we haven't personally. Our contract is Anthony from Solpro, I think, has contact with him.
All right, I'll leave that with you.
All of ours.
Happy to connect though, Councillor.
Look, I'll leave that with you, gentlemen. I was just making sure that not so much the left hand is talking to the right, because they are external, but they do hold a contract that's funded by this community in terms of addressing the graffiti on non-council infrastructure. So again, good to see you all, and thank you very much for the updates.
Pleasure, thank you.
Be here.
Right, does anybody else have any further questions? If not, I would like to thank you, gentlemen, very much for coming to our meeting and filling in all the gaps for us on all our matters under action. It's been really good to actually finally have a really good sort of rundown on everything that's happening. So thanks again, and no doubt we'll be seeing you in the future. But thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Cheers.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right. That's done. Right, members' business. Community board members' activities. I'll start because mine's really quite brief. We've had a Friends of the Rotunda meeting, the trustees, on the health camp and what's happening at the Rotunda. And further to your email, Shelley, yes, there are interested parties in actually taking on a lease of the health camp, but at the moment it is commercially sensitive, so I can't actually say who it is or what it is, and DOC actually have to work their way through it all. The house is ready for leasing or renting out, but the people that are interested in renting the whole health camp are actually interested in the house as well, which is why we haven't advertised it for rent and it hasn't gone out on the market to be rented to anybody locally at the moment. If that falls through, then of course that will probably happen. So what else? I went to the growth strategy briefing, which was very, very interesting on how many houses you can put on your little property now, which could be very interesting in the future. Had an Elevate meeting, and I went to the SS Ōtaki wreath laying at the college, which was a very different wreath laying ceremony to the past ones. It was no singing, and it was still very good and very enjoyable, but a very, very, very different sort of atmosphere and just a different sort of celebration. So hopefully next year we'll be all back to normal and everybody will be in full voice and singing the national anthem and everything again. So, and that's basically me. There hasn't been a lot that we've sort of been invited to. There's a council meeting this week. And James, there was another question Shelley had was on the annual plan, and I think you're probably better suited to reply to that for her. So perhaps you'd like to go next with your activities.
Chris, you had two hands up. I don't know if they're questions in relation to yours. There was Shelley and then Cam.
Sorry, question, yes. Who was it, Shelley? Shelley.
Yeah, just with regard to the health camp, was that something that was put out to people as an option, or was this someone who's approached
the lease?
Friends of the Friends of Rotunda or DOC? How was that come about? Were you looking for people to?
We weren't actually. No one was actually physically looking for anything. It sort of came about through basically our Member of Parliament and DOC. I think DOC may have put out feelers. I don't know for sure, but DOC were actually approached initially. So, and if they do lease it, it will be really beneficial for the community, for the people that want to do it. It means we will then be able to start working on the Rotunda and actually getting it into a state that it would actually be able to be used for some sort of community, things like dances or whatever. I don't know what we'd use it for. And the rest of the facility would be opened up. They'd open up the kitchen again and the accommodation. So it's looking very promising at the moment. But as I say, it's early days yet and nothing's signed, sealed and delivered. So really we can't sort of say anything until DOC say the go ahead for it. And DOC are quite slow moving. So
is there anyone from DOC that can come and talk to us about their plans for that? Because that's potentially a very big asset to our community. And so it would be nice to know that it is actually going to benefit the community really well.
Yep,
but it would be nice to have some kind of idea of what is the plan going forward, because I know that DOC have been given the management, but technically who are the owners? The Crown, or because whatever his name is, Byron Brown donated it to the community, did he, or is it donated to the Crown? Or
at the moment, stands still actually have their name on the title, so it's still going through all that, and now it's a heritage site as well. So Heritage New Zealand have slapped up whatever heritage rating on it, which is a really high one. So basically not a lot can be done. So DOC's got sort of governorship of it, so they are looking after it supposedly. So there's nothing we can do until it's all sorted out with them, and once that's done, I will arrange for, well, I can't even think of his name now, Blackster, I think, or was he gone? No, there's a new guy now. And he's very enthusiastic, the new young man that's taken over, but I can't for the life of me think of his name because I've only met him once. And once it's all got, there's actually something signed on a piece of paper, then I'm sure we can get someone from DOC to come along and talk to us. But until then, it's just, well, it can't, because that is an open meeting, and it's as I say, it's commercially sensitive at the moment. We actually can't have them at an open meeting to discuss it. So once they do, we will be rest assured you will be informed.
So this lease could go ahead without anyone knowing actually anything about it?
Possibly. Not really, though. It will actually be made public once everything's sorted. I mean, DOC, as I say, it's in DOC's hands, not ours, not the council's. DOC and Heritage New Zealand. We are there, basically the Friends of the Rotunda are there to look after to actually do something with the Rotunda. So the rest of the property actually isn't ours to look after or do anything with.
No. I know you saying it's good for the community, but the community might not think it's good that they had no say in who was moving in. That's all. So I might write to the Director General and ask for more information.
Well, I don't think
we'll get up?
No, I don't think that's a good idea at the moment, Shelley. Just let it lie and just see what happens. As soon as we know something, you will know. But by writing to the Director General, I don't even think he probably knows anything. Because
no, Director General of DOC, it is. Yeah. The only thing is, though, that if this goes ahead and people aren't happy about it, I don't know. It just seems like that's all right. Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight, and all of a sudden, people of Ōtaki can be told this is happening, because it's not going to work like that. Somebody is interested in leasing it. It will then be put out for public consultation, and everybody will know. So by writing to the Director General, all you're going to do is stir up a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody else got any questions or comments? Right. Okay. James, the floor is yours. I will just mute myself.
All right, buckle up. Going to go through this nice and quick. Annual plan. We haven't formally decided anything, I don't think, Janice, but everything is going in the direction that we are not formally consulting on an annual plan, receiving submissions, having hearings, and so forth. It is year 2 of only a recently signed off long-term plan with extensive consultation, a huge amount of submissions. There is a cost in terms of running all that process for an annual plan, and so there is a small but not insignificant saving in not doing so, but largely because it's year 2, and as we've done previously as a council, at this stage, I think everything's heading in the direction that we won't be looking at making any significant changes to year 2 of the LTP. I think what that means in probably layman's terms is we won't be asking the community to submit their wish list for council to consider and, potentially increase rates by adding that through. I guess in the opposite, there's been a request to staff to actually look at further reductions from the work that they've already done. So hopefully that answers the question about the annual plan. Happy to, I see Shelley, you got your hand up now, rather than move on to the next one. Is that regarding the AP? Okay. I haven't actually had time to write for the first time my sort of lengthy report back. I mentioned to you earlier the workload at the moment. Stop laughing, Martin. The workload at the moment is quite intense in terms of some of the stuff that we've got, and quite detailed as well. So not just the amount of things, but actually the scale of it as well. So I'm just going to touch on a few things. Chris had mentioned already that we'd signed off on the Growing Well strategy. It is very fair to say that that there is definitely areas of concern within Ōtaki, elsewhere within the community, but we're here tonight representing Ōtaki, but particularly amongst iwi around the intensification around our town centres, and especially around our marae. So I guess I just want to say that to you as a board so that you're aware. and also say that publicly. I found that we were doing very good work as a council with our wee partners in the community through the Growing Well strategy. And then right and over top of that, I think it was a day after or a day before we released our plans, the government came out with the changes around the mandatory upscaling and obviously higher intensity around our town centres and so forth. So that, in my opinion, and you'll see an article in, I think it was yesterday's Don Post, where I made some comment, probably oversteps the mark for our community and essentially is a sledgehammer trying to crack a walnut. What it is also at risk of doing is through the intensification of our town centres, providing housing, the concern from iwi is that the housing potentially is not for our people or people of Ōtaki. So you could have another 2, 3, 4,000 houses in our community, but if those people that are buying those houses have sold up in Whitby and Karori and moved up to Ōtaki, then all that is going to sort of further do is push our people out of the community. So look, I'm just raising that in response to the work that we've done and the action that government has taken. And I'm not sure really whether there's a lot that we can do about it, given it's come from central government. The other bit that I would say to that, though, is equally throughout the process I've raised concerns around Greater Wellington's response, because a lot of the outcomes in our Growing Well strategy rely on public transport and train options for our community. And I'm not so sure that Greater Wellington is equally up to speed with our plans alongside their plans. And a good example of that, I've been involved for a number of years around the train, the business case around the trains for Ōtaki. The very blunt reality of that is if Greater Wellington sign a cheque today, you would have heard me say this before, they sign a cheque today for those trains won't be running on our tracks for at least 5 years. Now, at least a year or two ago, they said that would be in 5 years. Just recently in a hui with another party in Otaki, they've said 6 years, and that's a year after they said 5 years. So now we're talking 7 years. The point that I'm trying to make is the solution is a long way off if we're wanting increased transport options for our community and a growing community with more intensity and not relying on cars or other vehicles for their mode of transport. So I'll move on quickly through the other ones more quicker than I did for that one. Pika Pika interchange. I have still been in discussions with the group there. I've worked on some revised wording for the notice of motion with staff and with a representative from the group. It sounds like we've got some wording signed off amongst those three, myself, staff member and the group representative. And I'll be looking at, once that is put back to the group and approved, I'll be looking to put that to a formal council meeting as a notice of motion. So that will be clearer when you see the wording. Again, I'm happy to talk to you offline. I just don't want to bore you all tonight with the details. But Finish Our Road representatives have been involved throughout the process. There's been some further action around the Te Horo Beach flooding and Te Horo Beach Road flooding. Staff have had some preliminary work done around the sumps. Had a Zoom hui with staff the other day. Janice, I have to say it was very impressive in terms of work that Sean's team had done. And it was a thoroughly productive Zoom hui. Identified a number of issues. We're looking at potential responses to that, and we'll be looking at going out to the community once we've got a more detailed plan with some actual tangible actions. There is obviously still some ongoing work going there with Greater Wellington, but what I'm hearing is that there's no commitment to additional budget or works from their end. But again, haven't met with them. We haven't met with them ourselves, and so I'll be pleased to hear if there's a change to that position. There's obviously been ongoing discussions around the three waters. Again, this is a big topic, and I know that members of the community are reaching out to elected members, including myself, around this. It's a national topic, not just a kapiti topic. And from a council perspective, in terms of as councillors who obviously the decision makers, we've not formed a formal position yet. We're still in discussions. It's certainly my desire, and I know Councillor Halliday's because I've talked to him, is that we discuss sooner rather than later what our kind of next steps are, given the response from central government to our request to meet with them, which was a polite thanks but no thanks. And it was in response to the notice of motion or a matter of an urgent nature that I put to the table. Matter of an urgent nature. Gateway Steering Group, we've met the construction of the sculptures are progressing, and they are basically trucking towards getting those casted and moulded and in place just prior to the opening of the Expresso. So that's pretty exciting stuff. We got to see the concrete, the cast concrete samples at our last Gateway Steering Group meeting. And there's also further discussion going on around the destination signage at the northern and southern ends of the Ōtaki around the expressway. Two last things, the youth space and the social investment fund as a response in last year's long-term plan. That work has been progressing, albeit slowly. I've been working in with Ms. McDougall around that, also not so much reminding her, because I know Janice knows, but the importance of it to our community, and her team have been trying to secure additional resources to be able to move that project along, given some resignations within the team. But that work is still front in mind for Janice and the team. And lastly, the local alcohol policy, which I know certainly Shelley and others have had some interest around. We had a briefing on that the other day. Again, long story short, that's progressing slower than we had hoped, and that is largely due to the fact that the regional public health officer is currently not available to participate, and it's a requirement for them to participate under the Act because they are currently involved in COVID response. And that's all from me. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, James. Does anybody have any questions of James? Shelley?
Shelley does.
Oh, I'm just wondering, in one of, I don't know whether it was on Messenger or whatever, there was a gateway meeting. Was it our gateway or the gateway for Kapiti? And if it was our gateway, was it everyone or just, was everyone invited? I don't know whether I was invited to that.
So yeah, I think
meeting?
I think I understand what your question is, Shelley. The Gateway Steering Group has been set up since the start of the project. It was a consent requirement from the Board of Inquiry to Wakakutahi/Fletchers. The group was set up by Fletchers, and there are representatives on the group. Chris is representative of the community board, myself as representative of the council, a council staff member, an iwi rep, which was previously Rupani Waka. And then there are representatives from the different agencies in terms of Wakakutahi and Fletchers and so forth. So that's been the existing membership, and they previously had monthly meetings. It's now moved to quarterly meetings, and that was just a continuation of those quarterly meetings. Your other part of your question was, is it a gateway to Ōtaki or to the region?
No. I was thinking, was it the gateway sculptures here or the gateway? Because it just seemed like everyone, when you were going on the expressway tour, meet where we met for the gateway, and I wondered if I'd missed the meeting.
Oh, okay. So where we have the meetings is just at the Fletchers building in Akiaki Place. Yeah. So has that answered all the questions?
Oh, I just wondered if the board had done a site visit or a meeting and I had missed it.
No, that was just a standard GSG meeting, and it wasn't a site visit for the board, if that was what you were meaning.
Yeah, no, I'm in the problem. We had to cancel the tour of the expressway because someone at Fletcher's had COVID. I'm now chatting with Renata and trying to set up a few more dates to send out to you guys so that we can hopefully all get to have a look at the expressway. So as soon as
we'll be able to drive on it soon. We'll be able to drive on it soon.
Yeah. So as soon as I've got them, I'll get back to you all. It's just hard trying to coordinate everybody, but it's looking like it'll be a Monday or a Tuesday because they seem to be the easiest days to organise around. So as soon as I've done that, I'll send some dates out to you all, and hopefully we can all get to have a wee look at it. Right, Marilyn, have you got anything?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, James, can I just ask a quick question about the Peka Peka interchange? You were talking about the the wording of the new motion. Has that been given to the representative of the group to present to the group yet?
I'll go into a little bit more detail, Marilyn. I just didn't want to take too long. So I've been working with Simon Arnold on, because I understand that he crafted the original wording for the notice of motions, which are now sort of out of date and superseded. So initially,
Yes.
I worked with Sean around drafting some revised wording that I was happy with, that I felt I could get across the council table and across staff in terms of wording that wasn't too ambiguous or stretched too far. I took that wording then to Simon, and then he's provided some feedback. At that point, I sort of stepped out and left it between Simon and Sean, because I felt that it just become a piggy in the middle, and it was really between Sean and Simon around the technicalities. I understand that they've now agreed on wording, and then that will they have agreed on the wording. I think it's just got to be put into an email and then circulated. And in discussions that I've had with Jenny from the Finish Our Road group, they certainly as a group want to see that wording as well. So I think once it's been confirmed between Sean and Simon and circulated, it'll go to the group. And then once it's got the final sign off, then I'll put it to council as a notice of motion. There is a risk of every Tom, Dick and Harry in the group, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, want to tweak all the wording. It'll take another 10 months. I mean, I've had an email from Jenny questioning how long it's taken. One, it's not the only thing that I have on my plate to do. And two, like I said, if it starts getting that different words get substituted and changed and so forth, then it will further delay and drag out the process. So I hope that's covered all of what you've asked, but certainly I think we're almost there. Oh, the other thing that I did as well, which I think is relevant, and talking with Sean and with Hamish and council, was made a couple of slight suggestions to the Growing Well strategy, so that it reflected future growth in that area, and also referenced the inclusion of an interchange of full or partial, and also train stations and so forth. So it wasn't exclusive around that particular proposal, but certainly it gives mention of it for the group to point back to around any evidence base around the support for it. And the Growing Well strategy is going to the editorial committee tomorrow, and I understand certainly there was support around the council table for that, a slight amendment around that particular topic. So we've sort of hopefully dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and then the rest will be up to the Finish Our Road group to tackle that nationally with any incoming government.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks for that. I'll follow that up with Simon. So my report is that I have been to a food bank meeting, and they've been having quite a few problems with anti-vaxxers going in there, which has been a real issue. They've had to put a better security door on there for Lucy because she was feeling threatened. And people trying to get food parcels from her that they're not entitled to. So she's been feeling a bit under pressure there. So thank you very much for approving the printer and the hard drive, because that will make a big difference for them. They had been asked by the MSD if they would help to distribute food parcels during the COVID peak, where people are isolating at home, and the answer was a big resounding no. They haven't got the volunteers. They don't want to increase their volunteer base, and they were being offered $100 per food parcel, and actually they cost $160. So I understand that the Catholic Church is going to have, or they have got, caravans available for people to put in their back gardens if people are having to isolate away from their families. The medical centre has got the facilities. They've been working with Rakawa Marae to do food parcels, not actually cooking meals, because people have allergies to all sorts of things. So just putting food parcels together and getting volunteers to deliver those. There's been a bit of a shift in the whole testing and vaccinating thing in Ōtaki for COVID. Initially, Kiwa, the CEO of the medical centre, was taking control of all that. He's had to step sideways so he can focus on the medical business because it was all getting too hard. So now Moko's doing that. I have got a CBEC meeting next week. The Ōtaki Community Network Forum met via Zoom this month, and it wasn't particularly well attended, but it had a good productive conversation. And we'll meet again via Zoom in April. We're looking for a secretary. Our secretary resigned at Christmas and we haven't been able to fill that position yet. So yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn. Can I just follow up on your MSD, the food parcels for the COVID people? I was just before this meeting, I was at a Golf Club Management Committee meeting, and we've been approached by MSD to actually do deliveries of them. We don't actually have to put the food parcels together. Apparently, we will be told where to collect them from and where to deliver them to. And our area is Te Horo to Manukau. So we've got quite a few volunteers from the golf members that are prepared to actually do that. So, yeah, and as I say, they said that the MSD said they organised to get the food parcels all put together, and all we have to do is collect them and deliver them to the addresses they give us. So,
okay, that's not what they were asking the food bank for. They were asking the food bank to do the parcels, and yeah, it was quite a heated discussion actually, because there were some people on the committee that felt it was a good thing to do, and the logistics just were untenable. It just couldn't work. So yeah, it's an interesting time. And one of the things, so Eric Matthews is on the food bank committee as well, and one of the things he was concerned about, and he had nothing to substantiate this, but it was a concern, was that people that are asking for food parcels because they're isolating and all that sort of stuff, they could possibly also have the facility or ability to be getting it from Maryland as well, because they're doing the same sort of thing. So it was, how do we know how many times they're dipping their fingers in the pot, you know?
Yeah, well, that's to say, we haven't been, well, Graham Baumgart's on the food bank committee, and he's on the committee, he's on the golf club committee with me. So he's actually was approached by MSD to do this. So yeah, so I'll watch the space. I'll keep you posted if anything further comes of it. But anyway, we better move on because James has got to go. So Cam.
Yes, hello. Well, I was wanting to say that we'd done the tour of PPTO, but of course that got cancelled due to COVID. I've been looking forward to that. I too attended the LAP briefing, and there were some interesting facts that came out of that. That 60% of councils actually have an LAP and more are in development, so it is quite a common thing to have. The survey that KCDC put out, they had 415 responses, so only 0.7% of the eligible population. So they were a bit disappointed with that, and there was a low response from Māori and younger groups, and a lot of variability in the response to the questions. So there was broad support for the LAP, and certainly Otaki had the highest number of people that would support a cap on the number of premises selling alcohol. So same as what James said, that they are basically sort of being stalled by not having access to the regional medical officer of health, and nothing will particularly proceed from there, though they are trying to get more research data in. And Kirsten Harpeter from the local iwi had also been providing feedback and had said that their younger Māori had actually been saying they want no more alcohol available, which was a nice sign. Outside of that, nothing else to particularly report, to be honest. It's been a bit quiet.
Thanks, Cam. Shelley.
No, I've got nothing really, except I was just going to ask about the conference, which is in July. It's not that far away. It's in Palmerston North. Is it? That's not the community board conference, though, is it? Oh, it's the local government. Oh, okay. It's getting all excited. Sorry.
You're on mute.
muted. You're on mute, Christine.
I said that's for the big boys to go to, not for us little ones on the community board. It's the big boys conference.
Are community boards allowed to go to local government conferences? We're local government.
Yeah, I believe they can.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
is there any?
I'm not sure who would fund it, but I think you can. Yeah.
James has got his hand up, Chris.
Who has?
James.
James, go. I'll just mute myself.
There's just a couple of other pertinent topics that I forgot to update you on, and listening to the discussions reminded me. So we also presented to Councillor Holborough and myself presented to the Local Government Commission on the representation review. So obviously that's gone to appeal. There are a number of submitters, majority of them, if not all of them, from Waikanae, opposing the council's proposal. Their general thrust of their submissions was around the need for more representation for Waikanae. And so the commission have received the submissions, ran their hearings, listened to the feedback verbally, and have now gone away to consider their final determination, which will set in place the makeup full council for the next 6 years, but could potentially be reviewed in 3, I think, if I remember correctly. And the other one that we had last week was myself as Worship the Mayor and Councillor Holborough co-presenting to the Future of Local Government panel, which are going around New Zealand hearing from local councils. So all councillors were in attendance, but the 3 of us were doing the presentation, which went for just over 2 hours and was quite a good discussion and Q&A with them as well. And I can see Councillor Halliday nodding there as well. I think it was pretty. I think we nailed the points that we were there to nail with them and the feedback from the council as a whole. And I think the panelists heard and understood the points that we were trying to get across. So also had tremendous support from Janice and her team in terms of preparing for that. So just want to acknowledge that as well.
Thanks, James. Right, so if nobody else has any business, we now get to the confirmation of the minutes. Has everybody read them? I'll take them as read. Right. Any matters arising? No. Okay. I move that the minutes be accepted as a true and correct copy of the last meeting. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Cam. And all those in favour? Little thumbs up. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that's all. Have I missed anything, Samara? I've got my papers spread all over the table like a baby's basket of toys.
I was going to say if you needed the GM and the board secretary's assistance on the Peka Peka to Ōtaki road trip,
okay,
we would be amenable to coming.
Would you? Okay,
I'll bring the lollies.
Okay, I will keep you in mind then. So I book you both a seat, shall I? And we've gone through the matters under action with the nice council staff that came, so we don't have to follow that. So if there is no other business, no, I declare the meeting closed at 8:55. There, James, before 9.
All right, I'll just stop the recording.
Good timing, because it sounds like I need to go.